Good evening, you're watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. Straight up to our top story today. The Supreme Court has delivered a split verdict on petitions challenging the Karnataka High Court's order upholding the state government's ban on wearing hijabs in educational institutions. Now, Justice Hemant Gupta has dismissed the petitions against the hijab ban, while Justice Sudhanshu Dhulia allowed the appeals and set aside the Karnataka High Court order. Now, Justice Dhulia said that wearing hijabs is just a matter of choice, nothing more or less than that. He said, and I quote, all the petitioners want is to wear a hijab. Is it too much to ask in a democracy? How is it against the public order, morality, or health, or even decency, or against any other provision of Part 3 of the Constitution? Now, Justice Gupta, in the meantime, said in his judgment that he has framed 11 questions on the matter, including whether the case should be referred to a constitution bench. Now, the other questions framed by him included whether the college management could take a call on student uniforms if wearing hijab or banning it was in violation of Article 25, and whether wearing the headscarves was an essential religious practice in Islam. He said, and I quote, the students are at liberty to carry their religious symbols outside the schools, but in pre-university college, the students should look alike, feel alike, think alike, and study together in a cohesive, cordial atmosphere, end quote. Now, in March this year, if you remember, the Karnataka High Court had upheld the hijab ban in educational institutions, ruling that hijab is not an essential part of Islam. In fact, that came after protests in Karnataka for several months against the hijab ban in educational institutions. Um, Now, this is what happens. In view of the divergence in opinion, the Apex Court has now referred the matter to the Chief Justice of India for appropriate directions. Meanwhile, there is, of course, reactions that's come in soon after the split verdict today. Karnataka Primary and Secondary Education Minister B.C. Nagesh has said the Karnataka High Court order upholding the state government's ban on hijab in schools and colleges will remain valid following this verdict. In fact, he said, and I quote, the ban on hijab will continue. As you know, the Karnataka Education Act and rule do not permit any religious items inside the class. So we're very clear that no student can wear hijab inside the class, etc. Moving on from the story right now, Jammu Administration has withdrawn a notification that was issued directing revenue officials to provide residence certificates to those living in the district for more than a year in order to register them as voters. Now, it was withdrawn after political parties in Kashmir alleged that it was an attempt to influence the upcoming assembly elections. Now, the revision of electoral rolls in Jammu and Kashmir is significant as the exercise is being carried out for the first time since the abrogation of its special status. Until August 2019, when the status was revoked, voting rights were restricted to those defined as permanent residents of Jammu and Kashmir. Trigger warning for people who are watching right now. The next story is extremely disturbing. It comes in from Kerala. A Kerala court has remanded 3 people accused of brutally killing 2 women, allegedly as part of a human sacrifice for financial prosperity. They have been sent to judicial custody for 14 days. According to bar and bench, dismembered bodies of these 2 women were recovered on Tuesday in Patnamthitta district. They were missing since June 6th. In fact, the investigators have said that the accused couple, along with a man identified as Mohammed Shafi, severely assaulted their victims before they beheaded them and cut the dead bodies into pieces. They were then later buried. The police said the main accused, Shafi, had approached the couple and told them that a black magic practitioner could offer solutions for their prosperity. He then allegedly advised them to carry out human sacrifices to end their financial troubles. In fact, on Wednesday, the Kerala police also formed an SIT to probe this case. Also in the news, according to a report by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, Indians studying in economically developed countries are more likely to stay back and join the workforce there as compared to the global average. Now, the OECD is an association of 38 economically developed countries, all of which attract a large number of international migrants. And this is what the report has found. The report found that 9.7 lakh international students in these countries in 2020 hailed from China, and the figure accounted for roughly about 22% of the total international students. In the meantime, 4.36 lakh students, about 10%, were from India. Now, Indian students also tended to take masters and PhD courses, as it quickly helps in transition to the labor market in shorter period on an education permit as well. Also in the news, in Uttarakhand, weeks after the murder of a 19-year-old receptionist at a resort near the town of Rishikesh, the Uttarakhand government has decided to bring all areas controlled by the state's revenue police under the jurisdiction of the regular police. Now, the decision will be implemented in a phased manner. The government has said in the first phase, 6 new police stations and 20 new police outposts will be created. Uttarakhand is the only state which still has a colonial era system under which revenue officials carry out initial investigation into crimes in certain areas. Now, to tell you about the case, 19-year-old Ankita Bhandari was murdered and her body was discovered in a canal, in fact, in Rishikesh. She had gone missing 6 days prior to the body being recovered. The police said that Pulkit Arya, the owner of the resort, confessed that he had killed Bhandari along with 2 others. Arya is the son of former Uttarakhand minister and Bharatiya Janata Party leader Vinod Arya. Meanwhile, in Maharashtra, days after a new poll symbol and party name were cleared by the Election Commission, Uddhav Thackeray-led Shiv Sena has written to the EC alleging bias, favoritism and foul play while distributing the party symbols. Now, earlier, the Election Commission had cleared a lit fire torch as the poll symbol for the Uddhav faction, while the name Shiv Sena Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray was cleared. Now, Shinde's faction has got 2 swords and a shield as its party symbol, and the name Balasahebanchi Shiv Sena. Moving on to business news right now, India's retail inflation has increased to 7.41% in September, up from 7% in August. It's the 9th consecutive month that it has remained above RBI's upper limit of 6%. Now, the food, vegetable, fruits, milk inflation increased, whereas rate for fuel and light declined. On to news coming in from across the globe. India on Wednesday abstained from voting on a draft resolution of the UNGA to condemn Russia's annexation of 4 Ukrainian regions. Now, the regions are Donetsk, Kherson, Luhansk, and Zaporizhia. Now, 143 countries voted in favor of it, 5 voted against, and 35 countries, including India, China, and Pakistan, abstained. Now, India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ruchira Kamboj, said, and I quote, "We have urged that all efforts be made for an immediate cessation of hostilities and an urgent return to the path of dialogue and diplomacy. As developing countries face the brunt of conflicts, consequences on food, fuel, and fertilizer supplies, it's crucial that the voice of the global south be heard and their legitimate concerns duly addressed." End quote. Also in the news, according to Ukraine officials, Russia has launched fresh attacks today morning, hitting a critical infrastructure facility near Kiev. Now, shelling in the southern city of Mykolaiv has killed 2 people and a young boy was rescued from the rubble. Now, this comes amid Russian president's meeting with Turkey's President Erdogan. In a summit in Kazakhstan, Putin said that Turkey is the most reliable route to deliver gas to Europe and proposed building a gas hub there as well. Now, Ukraine's NATO-led allies have denounced deliveries of advanced air defense weapons to Kiev. Ukraine has hailed this decision as historic. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.